Lesson number 11. Skill test. The final stage of a student's education at the school is external testing of his knowledge and skills, called the skills test. Operations of creating a test schedule, accurate planning, and managing student tests are no less important for obtaining CDL, compared with the training itself. In the lesson about attendance, we drew your attention to the importance of ensuring a constant flow of students. However, without the control of the skills tests, this cannot be achieved. Of course, the work of planning and monitoring the skills tests requires the involvement of the school managers, but for our part, we at Bolt are trying to make it as easy and straightforward as possible. So, log in with your admin's credentials. Instructors can also view the report, but only school managers can make changes. The students in their personal profiles will also see the skills tests scheduled for them. Launch the skills test from the dashboard. Skills test, unlike the previously reviewed reports, is not just a report, it contains a whole range of tools for planning and monitoring tests. First of all, it is worth noting that by default in the report you will see only students with a total training time greater than or equal to 100 hours. For this reason, we only see John. It makes no sense to schedule external tests for students with TTT of less than 100 hours. However, if you need to, you can change the lower threshold. Let's do it for training purposes. Enter 0 in the threshold value field and click Show. Now we can see all students. The system is designed in such a manner as to draw your attention to those moments where there may be errors. As you can see, the system highlights the student's non-zero balance, as well as some driver's licenses. The point is that if a student has a debt, then it must be paid off before testing, otherwise, the school may not receive money for education. The system also highlights driver's licenses, because they are incorrect. The only one correct is Mary's license. Presumably, the students entered incorrect data during registration, thus managers will have to check their data before scheduling tests. If left as is, the student will definitely have issues with the further test. The percentage of learning for all students in our example is 100%. In case a student has a lower rate, the system will also highlight it. After all, low success in studying theory increases the chance of failure on the skills test. More failures lead to a lower rating of the school. The lower the rating decreases the chances to enroll new students, and in general, training licenses can be deprived because of a large number of failures. Thus, it is clear why appropriate work with the skills tests is so important for both the student and the school. Based on our own experience, we at Bolt do know that when assigning a skills test to a student, the school manager needs to know and take into account not only the success of theoretical knowledge but also practical driving skills of the one. For this purpose, we placed information about student scorings in the skills test section. By hovering over the number of student tests, the manager can see their quality. The legend is given at the top of the report. A hollow star means that although there was scoring done, the student did not pass it. A half-hollow one indicates that the student passed the scoring successfully, but was not certified by the instructor. A full green star indicates that the scoring has been successfully completed, and in addition, the instructor has certified the student, indicating a high level of his skills. We will not dwell on each type of data in the presented report, just will say that we did them understandable from a functional perspective. For example, by clicking on a student's phone number, you can contact him, etc. Let's just say that the skills test report does not take into account a viewer location, because, as often happens, only one specific manager is responsible for skills test routines and he needs access to students from all locations. So, the entire set of data presented is intended to help decide whether to assign a skills test to a student or not. It may make sense to assign him a few more specific scorings or to require an improvement in the level of theoretical knowledge before testing. Let's assign external testing to the students. To do this, select the testing date using the calendar on the right side of the report. Let's schedule a skills test for Mary on the 20th of July and for Andrew on the 21st. Both students are highlighted green, so the system shows us that they are in the cart. You can also remove a student from the cart by clicking on the delete button. When student selection is complete, click on the cart icon and the system will generate a form for you that meets the state's requirements for assigning skills test. Change the information if necessary and click Submit when finished. Scheduled tests will be shown in the skills test calendar. Based on the history of the previously scheduled skills tests, the system will determine whether this is the initial test or a retest. You can change the type of testing if needed. You can also edit a vehicle type. There are a couple of appropriate types, such as school bus, trailer, or regular truck. You can also add endorsements if needed, such as hazmat, etc. You can also change the type of braking system. By default it is a full air system, but you can change it to hydraulic, for example. The system will set the type of transmission according to the one the student has, but this can also be changed if necessary. You can also leave a comment. It is important to understand that this form is filled out for a specific spot or testing location. For example, we entered several locations in Olympia and Tacoma. Let's schedule a skills test for selected students in Olympia. For example, the tester will be Lenny. Let's print the form and click Submit when done. All set. Let's repeat the procedure for Daddy, but get him tested in Tacoma. Returning to the skills test section, we can see that Mary and Andrew already have a skills test history, which means that all further tests scheduled for them will be treated as retests. After assigning all the skills tests, let's take a look at our organizer. It will show all scheduled skills tests, separating the different spots with colors, as well as a color separating the initial tests and retests. The goal of the organizer is to help the manager determine the load level of the spots or days and, if possible, evenly distribute it. In addition, starting the day, a good manager will contact the students according to the skills test plan for today and additionally notify them. Important. After the manager knows the result of the student's skills test, it is necessary to return to the organizer and reflect the result. When you hover over a student's test, you'll see a menu. G means graduated. Click it to change the status to passed. Option W means change status to withdraw, i.e. expelled or failed. If your student needs to retake a skills test, then you need to return to the skills test section and assign him a new test for the future. The scope of the organizer is 1 month. Use the calendar to view past or future test appointments. In the next lesson, we will show you how to properly use skills test analytics and how to make sure that you don't lose a student in a series of retakes. We at Bolt hope that our research was not in vain and that everything we offer will help you make your skills test management process more controllable, simple, visual, and easy to implement. Thank you for your time. See you in the next lesson.